everyone, it's Lisa. Thank you so much for joining me today. In case you missed my last video, I did an unboxing of the Sun and Fun kit, and here's just a quick picture of the contents of the kit. I'm not going to go through all of the contents today. If you want, you can go back to that previous video. I will put a link to it in the description box where I showed you all of the contents of the kit, and I also made 5 cards with the kit. In today's video, I'm going to be using the sunglasses die set from the kit and making this fun summer album. So I'm going to start out by just showing you a walkthrough of the mini album, and then it will lead into a full tutorial, so stay tuned. So I want to share with you the project that I created with this kit. It is a little mini album shaped like a pair of sunglasses, and I am just in love with this album. I turned the top part into a shaker, so there is a shaker element in here, and I included these cute little diagonal pieces for the front of the frames, and I'm just going to quickly just go through here just so you can see what this album looks like. So I did incorporate the die cuts in here and some of the pattern paper. I did put in some stamps that are in other collections of stamp sets that I have. So here are some more die cuts. This is actually cut out from the pattern paper. This is the Sun and Fun word die that's included in the kit. And then there's another fish. This is perfect for a summer little mini album. So here's a picture that says, "You are fantastic." So that's part of the Dolphins to stamp set. I did incorporate some of the a die arrow here, and then the dolphins, the shell, the sunglasses, the sun die from the sunglasses to stamp set, and there's the bird. You can also see that on all of these pages, I did put the stencil on here. So because the pattern paper pad is not large enough to cut for this entire length of the die, I went ahead and just stenciled to make my own pattern paper. So all of these sheets have that stencil on the background. So this was a word die, part of a card kit that recently came out, and some more pictures and die cuts, some of the pattern paper. Here's a sunshine word die and some more die cuts. So I just love this little mini album, and if you stay tuned, I will show you how I made this album. So the first thing you're going to do to make this album is you're going to take the largest die in the sunglasses die set, and you're going to die cut 4 pieces of chipboard. And I'm using the medium weight chipboard. I purchased mine on Amazon. There is a link down in the description box. And I find that the medium weight chipboard, it cuts very easily through my die cutting machine, which my die cutting machine is a Spellbinders Platinum die cutting machine. So I have 4 pieces. Now, if you want more pages, then just die cut as many pages as you want to have in your album. I'm only doing 4. You're also going to take the largest die in the set, and you are going to die cut 8 pieces of cardstock. And here I have guava, I have sunshine, I have kiwi, ocean, cantaloupe, sunshine, ocean, and guava. So I actually put mine in the order that I want them to appear in my album. You can die cut whatever colors you want. These are the colors that are in the pattern paper pad, so that's just what I chose, are these colors. So if you wanted to stick with all one color, you can. If you wanted to do different colors like I have, you can do that. If you don't want to use solid color cardstock and you'd rather use pattern paper, you can do that. I will say that this die is not going to fit on the paper pad. It's going to be too long. It's not going to fit to cut out the pattern paper from the pad. You'd have to find another paper pad to use for this project if you wanted pattern paper. But I'm going with solid color cardstock because what I'm going to do is I'm also then going to take my stencil from the set, and I'm going to stencil some of the hibiscus onto the paper to make my own pattern paper. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to set aside both of my guava papers. This is going to be the front and the back side of my album. So I don't want the hibiscus pattern on those pieces. So I'm just going to set those aside. These are the pieces that I'm going to put my stencil on. So I'm going to go ahead and take out some inks that I want to ink up with the stencil. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do some inking with the stencil, but before I do that, I do want to just share with you the ink colors that I'm going to be using. So for my ocean piece of cardstock, I will be inking that up with the peacock color. So I'm going with a tad bit darker color than the cardstock. The sunshine color is going to be inked with banana. The kiwi color will be inked with green apple, so that's slightly darker shade. And then my cantaloupe color will be inked with tangerine, again, a slightly darker shade of orange. I'm only going to show the inking of one of these, and then I'll do the others off camera just to save some time. So I'm just going to put some purple tape here on the back of the sunglasses, add that to my mat. And I'm going to take my stencil and I'm going to start here towards the top, and I'm just going to use these magnets on this board just to hold that down. You can see that it doesn't quite fit the bottom, so I'm going to ink up this part, then I'm going to move the stencil down and ink up the bottom part. Okay, so here is where I'm going to move this down just a little bit. I want to make sure that my flowers are not going over top of any existing flowers because I don't want to overlap them. And also when you're doing this, make sure that you're not getting your ink blending tool at the top of the stencil, because if you do, you're going to end up with a harsh line here. So there's my pattern, and I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of my sunglasses. And one other tip that I want to just share with you is, remember how I said that if you are coming down to the bottom, make sure that you don't put your blending brush at the edge of the stencil because you'll get a harsh line. Well, I did that. So to fix that, I just turned it over and stenciled the other side, and it looks much better. So if you make a mistake, just turn it over and you can just do the other side. So really quick, I want to just mention to you that when you're going from different color cardstock and different color ink, make sure you're cleaning your stencil off. So I'm just taking a bottle of spray water and I'm just spraying the top, taking a paper towel and just pressing it on there to get some of that ink off. Otherwise, if you don't do this, you're going to end up with multicolor inks on your project, and you're not going to be happy because the ink will not being what you want it to be. So if you just go onto your stencil and just tap it, I don't suggest going like this with a paper towel, because what's going to happen is your paper towel will get caught up in these points, and then you'll end up with little paper towel pieces all over your stencil. So just an FYI, as you're going through, just make sure you clean, and then also make sure your stencil is dry before you put it on the next piece of cardstock, because if it's wet, you're going to get wet spots and possibly some ink spots if you don't have all the ink up. So just make sure you clean it real well before moving on to your next color. So here are all my sunglass pieces that are inked up. You can see how pretty that looks to add that pattern on there, and the darker ink really makes a difference. Instead of going with the same color ink on the same color cardstock, always use a darker ink. It just shows up better when you're doing stencils. I do want to point out this one here. I didn't go as hard on the stencil on this one, so you can see that the flowers are a little bit harder to see than this one. So this was the second time I did it, and I just went a little bit harder pressure, more ink, and just got a better inked background. So that's just a tip. If you want it a little bit darker, just go darker, add more ink, and you'll be able to get a darker pattern. So now we're ready to start gluing these pieces onto our chipboard. You're going to decide what order you want your cardstock colors in. I know that I want to use the guava for my cover, so I'm definitely going to put that. I'm going to start with the cover, and I'll just add the guava piece to the cover. So I'll go ahead and do that now. So then you're going to get the piece that you want on the back side, and you'll just glue that down. I'm going to use my yellow. So once you have your yellow down, go ahead and put the piece down that you want on the opposite page. Remember, these pages are going to open like this. So whatever color you want here, that's going to go on that page. And then when you flip this over, you'll put a color on that you want on the reverse of that ocean page. And then find a color that you want to complement that and add to a new piece of chipboard. So when this page is turned, you'll have a brand new page and you'll find a new piece. Take out your last piece of chipboard and add your last piece to that one. And then on the back side, I said I was going to do another piece of guava, so I'm just going to go ahead and add that. Okay, so there are all of my pages. Now I do want to mention, if you have some overhang, like I don't know if you can see this, there's a little bit of overhang. You can see some of the ocean cardstock coming through underneath. You can just take your scissors and you can actually get your scissors right underneath there and just trim away just to make sure that it is even with the chipboard if that bothers you. So it's super easy to do. Just get your scissors right under that chipboard and then just trim away, and you won't even be able to tell that it's been cut. It's still a straight edge, but you can see that looks much better. So if that bothers you, just trim that, no big deal. Okay, so order of my album. I have my cover, then I have the ocean, then I have the cantaloupe, and then another of the yellow. All right, and there's my pages. So I'm gonna set aside all of my pages except for my front cover. And I'm gonna build my front cover, and I have taken the next size die. So remember, you have your large die that we die cut this piece out. Set this aside. We're not gonna be using the large die anymore. So next we're gonna be working with these two dies. So we have our layering die, which I die cut out of the ocean cardstock. That's gonna layer right on top. And then I have this die, which I die cut out of the sunshine cardstock, and that's gonna layer on top of that. I'm going to make this into a shaker. So what I've also done is I've taken a piece of foam. This is double-sided adhesive foam, and I die cut this die out of my foam adhesive. So I know many of you have been watching my videos for a while, and you've probably seen me make shaker cards in the past, and usually I build up cardstock layers, but this time I didn't want to waste my colored cardstock, and I knew that if I cut the foam, it would actually keep its shape because the pieces here, it's pretty thick, and it's not going to get distorted when I lay this down. So that's why I chose to go with foam. If you don't want to use foam, you can just take your cardstock and you can die cut your cardstock as many times as you think you're going to need for as many layers as you might need to hold your shaker bit. So you might have to die cut 5 pieces of cardstock, 7 pieces of cardstock. It really depends on how far up you need to layer your cardstock in order to hold your shaker bits. So you would just take this die and die cut multiple pieces of cardstock. But I went ahead and chose to use foam because the shaker bits that I'm going to use, I'm going to be using some sequins, and they're flat, so I don't have to worry about building up more layers. Now, if my shaker bits inside were not flat, maybe they had more of a thickness to them, I could always die cut another piece of foam and add it directly to the top. But I don't think I'm going to need to do that in this case because as I said, the shaker bits are going to be pretty flat. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to set that piece aside for right now because I also need to die cut a piece of acetate. And you're going to take this die, it's the same die that you die cut this piece out of, not the largest one, but the next size down, and you're going to die cut a piece of acetate, and that's going to go over top of your adhesive foam to hold your shaker bits in place. So I have to show you this acetate that I found at Michael's. This I found in clearance just recently at Michael's for only $5. It says it was regularly $16. And this acetate, it's pretty thick acetate. And I knew I wanted to use thick acetate. You can use your packaging for your stamps, but I find that that packaging is not very thick. And for this album, I wanted to use a piece of thick acetate. And you can hear how thick this is. So this is American Crafts We Are Memory Keepers, and it's a huge pad of 12 by 12 inch acetate. The Stamps of Life does sell acetate sheets, so you can look at their website and see what they have. I'm just gonna go ahead and trim this down so that it fits through my die cut machine. And then I'm gonna run that through my die cut machine. So I went ahead and die cut my acetate, which is here. And when you layer this top piece on, you will see that the acetate is just a little bit bigger than the cardstock, which is fine. You can use it this way, but I don't like it this way. So I'm actually gonna come in here and trim that to get a better cut. But before I do that, I am gonna go ahead and add glue to the back of this yellow piece of the cutout sunglasses, and I'm gonna add this to the acetate. Can you see how the acetate extends a little bit beyond the sunglasses? So you can technically use it that way if you wanted to. So let's just lay it out just so you can see what it would look like. It would extend a little bit beyond, so if you like that look, that's fine. I don't like that look. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna come in here with my scissors, and I am just going to trim around the shape of my sunglasses just to cut off all of that excess acetate. So next I'm going to take my foam piece and I'm just gonna peel back one side of the backing to have the sticky exposed, but I'm also going to just add a layer of glue on the top of this stickiness just for an extra layer of security. Since this is an album, I just want to make sure that everything is adhered very snugly. I don't want anything taking a chance of coming apart. So I'm just going to lay that onto my ocean piece. Okay, press that down. So next I'm just going to take my powder tool and just kind of rub it along the inside, because there is a little tiny, not much of a stickiness just along the inside of that. And I don't want the sequins sticking to the inside. So in order to test the height of your shaker piece, take the elements that you're gonna use for your shaker and just set them in there. Make sure that you're setting them in there flat and that they're not over top of each other. And you only need to test this with a few pieces. And then take your acetate piece and just set it over the top. And if the pieces move around in there as you hold this down, then you should be good as far as the height of your foam or the height of your cardstock pieces if you chose to use cardstock. So mine shake around pretty well. So I think the one layer is going to work for me. If for some reason yours don't shake and you find that they are touching the acetate and you just need more room, all you need to do is take this die again and die cut another piece of foam and just set it right on top. So set another piece of foam so you'd have 2 layers of foam on top of your sunglasses. If you were using cardstock, you may find that you just need to die cut a few more pieces of cardstock and then just layer those up. Okay, so just go ahead and put your shaker pieces in here. And again, what I like to make sure is that they're not overlapping when I add my acetate. So I have some yellow. I did want to bring out some yellow in this because I do have yellow in this album. But I also am going to be bringing in, these are some shaker pieces that the Stamps of Life sells. This is called Rose Blush. And these have all different kinds of bits in here. They have stars. They have the round sequins. These little dots that are in this sequins mix, they're gonna be a little bit too tall unless I decide to add another piece of foam. And I don't wanna add another piece of foam, so I'm just gonna stick with the actual flat sequins rather than using the dots. So that way, I'm just gonna go ahead and just shake some more of these into my hand. That way I can just pick what I wanna use. And then just again, make sure that you're not overlapping. All right, so I'm also then gonna flip this sunglass piece over with the acetate, and I'm just gonna put some powder here just to make sure that these sequins don't stick. I haven't had a problem in the past with sequins sticking, but just to make sure, I'm just gonna add some powder. That's perfect. So now I'm going to go ahead and peel back this top layer of the adhesive backing. And I'm gonna put some glue, just again for an extra level of security to make sure everything sticks and stays stuck. And then I'm gonna take this piece and I'm gonna add that to the top. The next thing I want to do is add these fun stripes to the tops of these lenses. So to get those, you're going to take, and I have the pink cardstock. It's the same pink that matches this, the guava. Just drop these lenses inside of the lenses portion of this sunglasses die, and then run that through the die cut machine, and it will give you these that you can put on your sunglasses. It's also going to give you pink sunglasses frame, but you can save that for another project. And then once you have your pieces, you'll just actually see which lens they fit, and you can just glue those down. Isn't that cute? So there's my little shaker. I love that. So if you were making this, let's say as a card, you can just use it like this and put it on a card front, or you can even just take this die and die cut the card base and put it on the front of the card as the card base. But this is gonna go right on top of the front page in my album. So I'm gonna go ahead and add this to the guava cover. So next I'm gonna go ahead and do my holes before I start decorating any more of this. So I have a crocodile, and I know that I want my hole to go here. So I'm hoping that this will actually go through the foam. If it doesn't go through the foam, then we'll have to figure out another way to do this, but I'm gonna try and put my hole here because I can always cover it up if it messes up. So I'm just gonna take my crocodile, and I'm using it on the 3/16 side, and I'm just going to stick this in, and I'm going to punch, and look at that, perfect. Now I will say that a regular hole punch is not going to work for this, so you're going to definitely need to have a crocodile to do this. So next what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the next page, and I'm just going to put these so that they are even. And I'm gonna stick my pencil in here and just kind of make a little circle. That's so I know that's where I'm gonna punch, and I'm gonna do that for all of these pages. That way I can make sure that my hole is in the right spot on each page. And then I'm just gonna take my crocodile, and I'm going to find the hole. You can see there's a hole in the crocodile, so find the hole and then just punch and do the same thing with each one of them. So I'm going to go ahead and set an eyelet in this circle where I punched the hole. I am using my We Are Memory Keepers eyelets. These come in several colors. I have the colorful pack. I also have a pack of like some golds and some silvers, some white, some metallic colors. So I chose this one because I thought that the colors worked great for this. This particular one is just a circle, but I like the color. This one is a heart. These are flowers, so they're different shapes. And I'm gonna go ahead and just stick this circle in here. So I like that color because it brings out the blue. And then on the middle part here, this is the eyelet setter on your crocodile, and I'm just going to put it right over top of that and just press down. And that just secures that hole, so I guess it's not gonna fray. It is a little bit thick, so you can't barely see the back of it on the other side, but that's okay. It's coming out just a little tiny bit, but it's gonna do the job, and it's gonna make this hole much smoother. So just press down. You can see the thick layers in here. So if you didn't have so many thick layers, but because I did a shaker, it that's why you can't see the back of it, but that's okay. So then if you wanted to go through and do the same thing on these other ones, you totally can do that. If you wanted to pick different colors or have all of the same color, that is simply up to you. I think I'm gonna stick with all of the same color and style. So I'm just gonna stick this in here. Now you can see the back side through the other side because this is only one layer of chipboard. And then I'm going to set that. So I'm just going to rest the little point there on the bottom of this eyelet and just press down. And that sets the eyelet. And I'm gonna do it for all of these. Okay, so my holes are done. And now we can do the fun part and we can finish decorating this album. Okay, so for the front, since I have this hole here, one thing I want to mention is that you could, if you were just doing this like a card, you could put these little flowers here on the sides. I think that would be really cute. But because I can't put a flower here and I want it to kind of look consistent, I am going to use one of these epoxy dots. I think this peacock color, it matches quite well. So these will be kind of like the little decorations for the side of the sunglasses. So I'll have those two there. So even though that one will have a hole in it, it still has the blue, which is a great look. So I don't think I want to put anything else on here because if I do try to put like a word die or something else on here, I think it's gonna cover up this beautiful shaker, and I don't want to cover up any of these lenses. I love this decoration. I thought about maybe doing like sunshine or something here, but I think I'm going to leave it the way it is. Maybe I'll change my mind later. I don't know. So I'm going to go ahead and open up to the next two pages. So I'm going to go ahead and switch to voiceover for the remainder of this video and just speed up the process a little bit. So I have my photos. All of the photos in this album are measured 2 by 2. And to get my photos measured at 2 by 2, I used an app on my Apple iPhone, and it's called Pic Collage. And you can actually make a 4 by 6 photo and put several different photos in one. So I think like a 4 by 6 photo would have 6 2 by 2 photos on one sheet, and then I just get them printed at Walgreens. So I have 3 photos on this page. Some of those strips I just cut down from the pattern paper pad, no specific measurements on those strips. That arrow is from the Frames for Planner dies from the Stamps of Life. I am using a sentiment from the Floaties to Stamp set that says Fun and Sun. Fun in the Sun, and then I just stamp that there onto the album. And here's another strip that I just cut out that I'm going to put underneath this photo, and I'm going to then add that little fish next to it. Notice I'm also using a tape runner, and you don't usually see me using a tape runner that often in my videos, but I chose to use it on this album in case I need to pick anything up and reposition it. I didn't want anything to be permanently adhered. If I used the glue, it would be permanent, and I would have very little time in trying to reposition if I needed to. So I add a epoxy dot. It's one of the flower epoxy dots in the pink color. I add the word enjoy up there at the top left hand corner. That sentiment is from the Sandals for Summer stamp set. And then I just cut a piece of this pink pattern paper and I just add it there to the top of that picture on the right hand side. And I just trim off the excess there. Again, I'm not measuring any specific measurements. I'm just trimming it to whatever I feel like looks good and then just tucking it underneath, and then I'll just add some adhesive and just add that there underneath the picture, a little slightly underneath that picture. And then that page is complete. So moving on to opposite page, which is this ocean paper. I am taking one of my pictures and I am just cutting it down to a smaller size. Again, no specific measurements here, and I was trying to debate how I wanted to put that pattern paper, and I ultimately decided that I'm just going to kind of put it kind of in a wonky position underneath that photo. So I'm going to do one picture there on the left, and then I'm going to do two pictures on the right hand side. So again, I'm just using my tape runner and just adding those pictures. I do die cut the sun and fun words, and I'm just using those letters. I die cut those out of the guava cardstock, just using the letters there because I didn't want to use that sign. It would have taken up too much room on that album page. I'm also going to be bringing in one of the hibiscus flowers, and I'm going to fussy cut it from the pattern paper. I do have the dies, but I was too lazy to go dig for them. But if you have the dies, you can just use your shadow dies and cut them out. So I did cut one of the pink flowers. I am going to tuck it in on the left side of that picture. I did cut it down the middle because I only needed half of that flower to show. And then I'm going to fussy cut one of the stamens for the center of the flower, and I'm going to add it to the center of the flower. Next, I took a die from the mini binder dies and I die cut that out of this pattern paper, and I just cut it down the middle. You can actually, it has a score line and you can fold it in half, but I'm not using it as an actual tab divider, so I'm just using it just to add some decoration below the picture. So I just cut it in half at the score, and I'm going to add that underneath this picture. So I'm just going to add the picture first so that I know exactly where I want it to go. Add this second picture, and then I'll go ahead and add that little divider, and I will go ahead and lift up and just add it underneath there. Again, that's why I'm using the tape runner, because if I just put glue there, I wouldn't be able to lift up. It would be stuck permanently. And then I'm going to add this fish. This is one of the die cut pieces that came in the extra ephemera pack. I do need to move over this word fun before I add that fish, just to give it a little bit more room. So I flip that page over, and now I have this green page, and I'm going to add two pictures there on the right hand side. I'm also going to bring in the shell, also the dolphin from the die cut pieces. So just adding the shell there on the right. I am going to just cut a piece of this pattern paper. Again, no measurements, just trim it to whatever you feel looks best. Add that pattern paper down. I'm going to add my picture, and then I'm going to add the dolphin over top of the picture. I am going to bring in a sentiment, and the sentiment is going to be "You are fantastic," and that is from the Dolphins to Stamp set. So I'm just going to stamp that onto some white cardstock and then just trim it down with my scissors. And I'm going to add that to my page, but before I do it, I do have a arrow die that I die cut out of some cantaloupe cardstock that I'm also going to use on this page. That arrow die is from the Frames for Planner die set. Moving on to the opposite page is this orange page. So I've got my picture, I have my mini binder tab, just like I did on the one of the previous pages. And I'll add that there at the bottom of the picture. I am going to use the bird, and you're also going to see that I'm going to bring in a sun, which I die cut from the Sunglasses to Stamp die set, and I'm going to add that to my picture as well. I'm going to add two photos on the left and another one of the tabs there on the left hand side, as well as one of the sunglasses from the ephemera die cut pack. So I'll add that to that page as well. And once everything is adhered, that will complete this page. Then I will turn that page over and I will next be working with this blue page. So I'm going to just put 2 pictures here. I am using the Loving Life word die. That was from a previous card kit from the Stamps of Life. And I'm also using one of the flowers from the paper pad, which again I cut in half. Only need half of that flower there, no sense in wasting it. You'll see that since I cut it in half, you'll see that I'm going to use the other half of that on the opposite page. So I do add another arrow, again that is from the Frames for Planner dies. So add all of that there. I will also cut a stamen and add a stamen to that middle of the yellow flower. And I'm also using a floaty on this picture. So there's the other half of the flower. I'm just going to tuck that in at the top of that particular picture on the right side, and I do add a flower epoxy dot. And then moving on to the opposite page, I'm going to be using this Sunshine word die from the Stamps of Life. I like how it looks backed up on the pattern paper that was die cut out of the shadow layer. So I'm going to add that as well as one of the leaves. I'm also going to add an arrow. And then on the opposite side, I have a single picture with a dolphin. I'm also going to use some of the wave pattern paper and add that almost like he is standing in the ocean. I think that is a cute touch. So I'm just taking a whole piece there of the pattern paper, putting some adhesive on the back of that, and then just cutting it to size. So just trimming it down to size so that it fits the shape of the sunglasses. And then I'm going to add a starfish there like it's in the water. And then I'm going to take a ring, an album ring, and just put all those pages on the album ring, close that up, and then add some ribbon. So I have ribbon in the guava color, the lemonade color, which is the light yellow, and then in the ocean color, actually I think that's the sea glass color that I'm using, and just layering those up and tying them in a knot around that ring. And that is going to complete this mini album. So if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. I will also link down below the video that I created making 5 cards with this kit. So if you haven't seen that, you can head on down to the description box and take a look at that. Thanks so much for watching, everyone, and have a great day. Bye-bye.